What's up everyone, Alex here. One of the things that I love about the Backlog Battle Awards is that it gives the community the opportunity to vote for their favorite games of the year. But a couple of years ago, it started becoming apparent that trying to boil things down to about just 10 games or even just one game of the year doesn't really represent the diversity of the games that we've experienced throughout. After all, isn't that the point of these awards? To take a look back at the entire year of games and actually celebrate everything that we played? It's actually because of this that I decided that I should bring back the runners-up video, that top 10 list of games and one DLC that showcases the games that didn't quite make the cut. I would think of this video as part one of a two-parter that celebrates the top 20 games of the year. And keep in mind, these are great games as well, so if you're curious about any of these and you want to pick them up after you see them in this video, I want to let you know that I put links for purchase in the pinned comment of this video. Alright, we've got a ton of games to cover, so let's just get right into it. Starting off this list is Silent Hill 2 Remake, sitting at number 20. I remembered when news of Silent Hill 2 Remake's development was leaked that there were several prominent nega YouTubers, yes, I'm coining that phrase, who quickly proclaimed that the game was gonna suck based on early game footage. But the funny thing about game development is that making video games isn't the perfect science, especially in the very beginning. This is proven by both the critical and community acclaim that Silent Hill 2's remake received upon its release. Silent Hill 2 is my favorite Silent Hill game of all time, making incredible use of symbolism, metaphor, and narrative to tell a story that is both terrifying and heartbreaking. James' journey through Silent Hill and the ensuing events that led to a startling realization at the end is something that I wish I could forget, if only so I can re-experience it all for the first time. Its placement on this list is proof positive that the remake and the legacy of Silent Hill 2 gets to live on for a new generation of fans. Silent Hill 2 Remake is available on PS5 and PC. At 19 is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. The fact that this game persists within the top 20 best games of 2024 here at the Backlog Battle Awards shows that the community found a riveting and entertaining adventure within. What's interesting about Dragon Age: The Veilguard is that it took some of the lessons the team learned from making the previous 3 games and came up with something that utilizes the strengths of everyone at BioWare, creating an unexpected melange of mechanics from both Mass Effect and previous Dragon Age games. And when you think about the biggest strengths of BioWare as a developer, it's creating memorable characters, twisting its narrative through epic moments, and merging that with an RPG experience that is uniquely theirs. And no, I'm not saying that this is a perfect game, nothing is. But Dragon Age: The Veilguard has a lot of heart and a ton of guts in it too, that many who have stuck with playing the game through have turned around and said that it's one of the best gaming experiences they've had this year. You can play Dragon Age: The Veilguard on PS5, Series X and S, and PC. At number 18, you have Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Despite Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes being a classic throwback to the good old early days of the PlayStation, I have to admit that there's something liberating about playing a game that just outright disrespects modern conveniences. Did you want to save on the world map? Find an in, nerd! Or put it on standby as most people do these days. That aside, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes owes much of its design to the many people who worked on the original Suikoden. And by that, I'm not just talking about its inconveniences. I'm talking about the epic large-scale battles, cooking competitions, turn-based combat, and a cast of literal 100 heroes that you can mix, match, and create tons of parties with. I don't know how many times I need to stress that Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a JRPG for fans of the classics. But in case you want to trip back to memory lane and see how these games were like back in the day, you absolutely can't go wrong with Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is available on all modern platforms, but I highly recommend getting it on the most powerful platform you can play it on. For a re-release, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance sure is riding high at number 17. Listen, I know what I said in my review of this game, but if you 100%ed the original game and learned that a new, better version of the same game came out, the thought of doing it a second time for about 50% of the time will make you feel the same way. Putting my personal experience aside, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is an intensely gameplay-centric experience that is now counterbalanced by the additional narrative provided by the brand new Vengeance route exclusive to this version. Let it not be lost that I 100%ed this massive game, not because of its story, but its addicting gameplay. Exploring Dot, especially with new traversal features of Vengeance, is even more of a treat in this game. And getting the new demons and all of the wonderful quality of life features in this version, not to mention the performance benefits of playing the game on more powerful platforms, makes it well worth revisiting. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is out now on all modern platforms. If Elden Ring is that polished action RPG experience that's filled with epic manicured battles, then Dragon's Dogma 2 is like Grand Theft Auto in that if you try to break the game world's rules, you'll most definitely find yourself in the most ridiculous of circumstances, which, to be fair, is probably why it's number 16 on this list. In fact, trying to play Dragon's Dogma 2 the way it tells you to feels so vanilla that sometimes I felt like I was playing the game wrong. Sure, you can recruit pawns to join your party and defeat powerful monsters roaming the countryside this way, or alternatively, you can just head to the nearest town, throw the most powerful looking NPC over your shoulder, then toss them towards said powerful monster so you can have even more people help you even the odds. There's other weird shenanigans that happen in the game that would be too numerous to describe here, but one thing's for sure, Dragon's Dogma 2 sure made an impression in our community that it's higher than a few JRPGs on this list. Dragon's Dogma 2 is available on PS5, Series X and S, and PC. The experimental The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which employs the complex rule sets of its bigger budget 3D siblings into its 2D presentation, comes in at number 15. Sure, the rules are a bit simplified when compared to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but being able to play as Zelda in an all-new adventure, as it turns out, is a ton of fun to play. Nintendo doesn't do things without a good reason, and I had this hunch that the engine used in the Link's Awakening remake was going to be utilized in another form. This one. Being able to stack and manipulate objects in the environment has this fun quality to it that makes this game playful, fun, and, dare I say it, imaginative. It may not be like the classic Zelda titles, but it's certainly worthy of one of the best games of 2024. Need I say it? The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is only available on the Nintendo Switch. Sharing the 15th spot with The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. I mentioned in the voting form that DLCs and expansions will share the same rankings as other games if the number of votes match, and many of you saw this fit to share the 15th spot. Shadow of the Erdtree employs a brand new customization system that sat on top of Elden Ring's existing system, which greatly rewarded taking more risks as you explored a brand new land. Some players at the time likened this expansion to FromSoft's older titles, but several months later, now that people know how to play this expansion, many fans consider it as one of the best expansions that the company's ever made. And yes, I will refrain from talking about the last boss, which might feel like a retread for some. But all in all, Shadow of the Erdtree is one of those experiences that, if you've gotten far enough in Elden Ring to get to it, will excite and give you that same experience as playing the original game for the first time. Shadow of the Erdtree is available as an add-on for Elden Ring, which is out on PlayStation and Xbox platforms and PC. Visions of Mana's story creeps up on you from time to time, but when it delivers that emotional gut punch, it hits hard, which is why it's on the number 14th spot. This action RPG isn't one of those games that lets you make crazy combos with different abilities, which might make it seem pretty basic. Instead, it's a throwback to the good old action RPGs of the 16-bit era, where it rewards you with playing well rather than stringing the most amount of hits consecutively. This allows turn-based fans who have been reluctant in playing action RPGs to partake in its gameplay without having to worry about quick reflexes and the like. And when you consider why the ingenious design of the ring menu allows these same players to pause the action to take a breather and initiate healing actions or offensive skills, you'll find that Visions of Mana aims for a larger audience than one might think. And that's not even talking about how the game incentivizes exploration to build up your characters and how these worlds are colorful, painterly, and vibrant. Visions of Mana is one of the most underrated games of the year, and you do well to check out why this game is the community's 14th favorite game of the year. Visions of Mana is available on PlayStation platforms, Series X and S, and PC. At lucky number 13 is Ys 10 Nordics, which marks a return to the series that fans thought took a little side trip with the previous game. But what makes Ys 10 that much better is that it combines the feeling of exploration we've all enjoyed in Ys 8 with moves inspired by Ys 9's traversal mechanics. And for the first time in series history, Adol can actually commandeer a ship. And even more surprisingly, he didn't sink it. Well, if you didn't sink it, that is. Kidding aside, there's an addictive quality to Ys 10 that appeals to that curious part of my brain that just wants to look at every corner of the map for treasure and trinkets. And because the party shrunk from 3 to 2, fighting with both Adol and Karja is a bit more manageable. Ys 10 Nordics is definitely a worthy addition to the Ys series. And in case you haven't heard, there's an expanded version of the game coming out next year in Japan called Ys 10 Proud Nordics. But if you don't care about that, you can get Ys 10 Nordics on PlayStation platforms, Switch, and PC. Out of all of the games on the top 20, Black Myth: Wukong is the game that I know the least about, so it curiously sits at number 12. It's like one of those games that I knew was going to come out, then all of a sudden, everyone started talking about it come award season. Everyone who's played it swears by its gorgeous visuals, rewarding gameplay, and the fact that it's an Unreal Engine game that's not Fortnite. I'm not joking, some of you did say that. On top of the fact that it's based on the story of the Journey to the West, I'd say that these praises are all warranted. Black Myth: Wukong is available on PS5, Series X and S, and PC. And the best runner-up game of this list goes to Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, sitting at number 11. Yes, it doesn't have the most complicated story or the most complex character development, but what it does do well is putting the player's gameplay experience front and center in every design. What you lose with long, deep cutscenes is the ability to jump into the middle of the action quickly, allowing you to try out a plethora of characters who all control differently from one another. It also fixes one of my biggest pet peeves that I had with Monster Hunter World, which held everyone hostage just so that everyone can play together in the campaign. In Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, regardless of where your friends are in the story, you all can play together. So if you want an amazing action RPG that you can enjoy with your friends, you can't go wrong with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. The game is available on PlayStation platforms and PC. And as a bonus, PlayStation players can play across the PS4 and PS5. As I said, every year has had incredible games released that simply cannot be contained in a top 10 list. Heck, maybe even a top 20. So I want to hear your favorite games that didn't make this cut. Post your favorites from this list, as well as what you're hoping to see in the Backlog Battle Top 10 Best Games of 2024. The top 10 best games of 2024 for the Backlog Battle Awards will go live on Monday, December 30th. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.